Okay, we will be working on an old released STAAR test from year 2017. Problem number 1, you can solve it by hand, in which case you would want to factor out a perfect square. So we have 49 times 3, that would be a perfect square. And then when you take 49 out of the square root, when you square root it, you'd get 7. And you'd still have 3 under the radical, so the answer would be B. If you are not familiar with the by hand method, you can always use your calculator. And you could type square root 147 in your calculator. Control squared gives you the radical, 147. That gives us 12.1244. That does not help you with your answer choices, so what do you need to do? Then type in each answer choice and see which one will match. Since we know B is the answer, let's go ahead and plug that into our calculator. 7 square root 3. 7 control squared 3. And we see that it is indeed the same number. No surprise that it's the answer. Number 2. Is a word problem. We have a drummer and a guitarist. The guitarist wrote, so G equals 8 fewer than. You're inclined to write 8 minus twice the number of songs as the drummer, 2D, but this phrase, fewer than, is like less than. And those two phrases mean we have to switch the order of the way that is written. So it would really be twice the songs that the drummer wrote minus 8. Let's see how that makes sense. The guitarist wrote 8 fewer, so 8 less than twice the number the drummer wrote. That makes sense. However many the drummer wrote, times 2, take away 8. So that's our first equation. Now our second equation, it says they wrote a total of 46. Total of 46. And who is they? The drummer plus the guitarist. So the answer that matches on that one is F. All right. Next, we have an inequality. We know that on the STAAR test, they limit the ability to graph an inequality on the calculator. We can graph it by hand easily. Plus 0 is the y-intercept. Well, we are familiar with y equals mx plus b. So the y-intercept is 0. This one is wrong. It's not in the right place. This one is correct. This one is correct. This one is wrong. It's not in the right place. Now we take a look at this symbol. Y is less than or equal to. Since it has the equal to line underneath it, it should be a solid line, which C is, but B is a dashed line. So that one's not right. The answer is C. You could also graph this in your calculators with an equal sign, and it would have shown you that this was the right answer. And you could have eliminated numbers A and D without any knowledge of the inequalities. Next question. We have transformations. We know that the vertex form of a line, y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. The number at the beginning makes it wide or narrow. Remember, if it is a fraction or some number less than 1, it makes it wider. If it's a whole number or any number greater than 1, it makes it narrow. We're talking about how wide the parabola is. We know that the number on the inside makes it go left or right. And it's the opposite of the way it looks, since the formula has a minus in it. If it looks negative, it would be positive, and vice versa. And then we know the number at the end makes it go up or down. So let's take a look at the problem we're on here. There is nothing in the front, so it is neither wider or more narrow. It has a hidden 1 there, which is normal. There's nothing at the end, so it's not shifted up or down. There's only something in the parentheses with the x, so that means it goes to the left or the right, just like the x-axis does. Since it's negative, we would normally think that's going to the left, but since it's opposite, it's going to the right. So this one is shifted to the right. F is the answer. All right, next question. We're given the question about range. You should immediately know range is y. Just like the G looks like a y, range is y. Let's set up this formula here with a y. Y equals 20x plus 4. We know that that's just function notation, and that function, f of x, is our output. We are told to ask to get what the y is, what the range is, the output. We're looking for this, so that means we're going to have to plug some numbers in for our x. What are the numbers we're going to plug in? Well, we have up to 6 pairs of plates. Could we put on 0 plates? Sure. So if we plug in a 0, 0 times 20 is 0 plus 4. So if I were, I'm going to make a table over here, if I were to put on 0 plates, the output would be 4, just the weight of the 4-pound barbell. What if I were to plug in 1 pair of plates? Well, 20 times 1 is equal to 20 plus 4 would give us 24. So if I have 1 pair, it would weigh 24. Let's go ahead and see if we can start crossing out some of our answers. A, that would have been the domain, the number of barbell pairs that we're putting on. B, 4, 24. So far those match. We're thinking that's it. C is clearly not it. And D has 4 and 44. So that's not it either. The answer is B, and we don't have to go any further. Let's check the next question, number 6. We are given a rectangle, but there's no picture, so we're going to draw it ourselves. And it says that the area is 54x to the 9th power, y to the 8th power. Then it says that the length is 6x to the 3rd power, y to the 4th power. 6x to the 3rd, y to the 4th. And they want us to find the width. So we're looking for this side here. That, since we know you're going to do side base times height, or length times width, in order to get area, we're now going to go backwards. So we were going to be dividing instead of multiplying. So the way we would set that up is by having 54x to the 9th, y to the 8th. And we are going to divide that by 6x to the 3rd, y to the 4th. You know from your formula chart, let's pull that up. We're looking in the properties of exponents section. We're dividing. So what does it say we do with our exponents? We're going to subtract. The regular numbers do regular math, so we're going to divide those like they are. 54 divided by 6 gives us 9. And then our exponents are doing the exponent math. So we look, x to the 9th power divided by x to the 3rd power would be 9 minus 3. That'd give us x to the 6th. And then y to the 8th divided by y to the 4th would be 8 minus 4, y to the 4th power. We see that our answer is G. Scratch that, H. All right, moving on to the next one. This one is one of the more challenging questions. First, you have to read and write your own equation for this quadratic function. So we know that it's 2x squared minus 6x, and they're saying it equals 416. And then we would have to solve it. In order to do that, we would move 416 over. Minus 416 minus 416. 2x squared minus 6x minus 416 is equal to 0. Now, you can solve it by hand or you can use the calculator. Let's solve this one by hand first. We'll do that over here. 2x squared minus 6x minus 416 equals 0. We see that they can all be divided by 2, so we're going to factor out a 2. We're left with x squared minus 3x minus 208. Then we factor. This is one of the reasons this is a difficult question, is because now we would want the factors of 208, and there are many factors. The correct pair would be 16 and 13. And which one would have to be negative in order for it to add to a negative 3? Well, the 16. So then we would have 2 parentheses x minus 16, x plus 13. And then if we solve both of our binomials, x minus 16 equals 0, x plus 13 equals 0. We then solve plus 16 plus 16. X is equal to 16 as one of the answers. Minus 13 minus 13. X is equal to negative 13. Which one of those makes sense in the context of how many seats there would be in an auditorium? Not the negative number, but 16. That's our answer. Now, if you cannot do that, you can always use your calculator. The method we would use for that is to graph this same equation. In our calculator, we know we don't type in equals 0 at the end, but just that. When you hit enter, because it is such a large number, it would not be in the window. Your calculator would look empty. So you know you would have to hit menu, window zoom, and you could zoom out. And then you would look for the solutions here. Now, since I've drawn it that way, this should be over looking more like that, because it's a negative solution for one of them and a positive 16 for the other. That's obviously not drawn to scale. All right, next question. Number 8. After that very hard one, we're up to an easy one. An asymptote is the horizontal line that is approached, in this case by the exponential function, but never crossed. So it's this S letter rather. All right, number 9. Which one best represents causation? Causation means one thing makes another thing happen. So we would need that vocabulary word. A, in some years, has confused some students because they're talking about bus stops and cars, and the students sometimes think those things would be related. But if they add a few more bus stops, it would not significantly decrease the car sales. In this one, we have firefighters reporting to a house and the amount of damage caused by the fire. It would seem that if there were fewer firefighters there, the fire wouldn't be put out as fast, and so the damage would not decrease, but rather increase. The correct answer is D. It's the most correct answer. It rains and the level of water in a lake. The more it rains, the higher the water in the lake, the more water that fell. So that makes sense. Number 10, it asks us which function is best represented. We see a bunch of quadratic functions here. That makes sense since this is a parabola. We can solve this one of two ways. We can factor it by hand. Let's do that method first. I'm going to start, since I am the benefit of being a teacher, going to start with G, knowing that that is the correct answer. We will factor out a negative. X squared plus 3x minus 4, and continue factoring. The negative stays out front. What are the factors of 4? negative 4, that add or subtract to give us 3. Well, 1 and 4 would be the ones that work, and which one would have to be negative in order for it to add? The 1 would have to be a negative, so that's x minus 1, x plus 4. Then we would solve them like we did before, where we set them equal to 0. X minus 1 is equal to 0. X plus 4 is equal to 0. Plus 1, x is equal to 1. Minus 4, x is equal to negative 4. So those are the two solutions that we solve for. And we know that solutions on a graph are the x-intercepts, also called roots and zeros. We see that 1 is right here and negative 4 is right here. So that makes perfect sense. Those two are the answers. G. Of course, the other way you could solve it is by graphing each one of these in your calculator and see if it matches that picture. All right, we'll stop there for this video and pick up in the next.